Thank you very much.
Thank you very much indeed. Dawn Butler, then finally Tracy Crouch.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you very much. Fascinating. I can't help thinking when we talk about using the old Windows that's less secure, but I'm thinking if you were using a Nokia 3310, that's probably more secure than the latest phones now because it's less hackable, right?
Yeah, but the irony is that you're trying to connect that Nokia 3310 to the latest Windows infrastructure or online infrastructure. So that's what we're effectively doing in the OT world. So in reality, a lot of these systems were designed, so a Nokia 3310 was designed to be mobile. So it was designed to be connected and have certain approaches around it. Whereas a lot of these devices were designed thinking they're sitting in a secure physical location, so they're not necessarily got the same level of digital security even as a Nokia 3310. They probably don't even have the ability to put a pin on many of these. You can just walk up and connect to them. I'm stretching this analogy too much, but but the reality is that what we've effectively done with a lot of this operational technology and connectivity, and for good reasons, if we're going to achieve some of our net zero renewable goals, we need to connect up because we need the management information, but we're effectively connecting equipment that's as old as a Nokia 3310 to a modern infrastructure. And so you've got to think about having the resilience in place and the compensating controls to manage the fact that you've suddenly increased that attack surface. So effectively, if you're then putting in PC systems connected to those control systems, if they're out of date, they are an issue,
What's the basics you would expect for somebody in a secure environment to have? So like on a mobile phone, what's the basic things that you would expect to be on there for security reasons?
So, I mean, if you take a mobile phone as opposed to, or a mobile device, it's particularly somebody walking into a system. So there's two sides to this. If you've got your mobile phone, it should be always up to date. You should be using multi-factor authentication to log into it. You should be having strong control over that. If it's used for connection to the industrial control system, it should not be used for checking your email or browsing the web. It should, because that's how the threat can come in from looking at the consumer side. So if you're running in with, say, a laptop that you're going to connect up to an OT environment to do management and environment, that should be dedicated to that function. So if it has any connectivity, it should be to documentation or call centres or back-end or a secured environment. That doesn't have to be on premises, it can be cloud, but secured access only for that use case. So where you see a lot of the threat coming in is where people take effectively what should be privileged workstations, secured devices, and they start checking their email or browsing into it, because that's where a lot of these threats get in. And so if you then use that in any other case, you can effectively walk the threat in on your mobile device. Whether more likely it's a laptop, because that's how they quite often maintain these things. They walk in with a rugged laptop and connect it in, and it's about making sure that it's locked down. It's not your device to check your email on. You have a different device for that. It's designed specifically for managing that infrastructure, and it should almost be treated as an extension of that infrastructure.
Thank you, Professor Rashid.
I don't have more to add. So, yeah.
And Professor Rashid, you talked about education, and I'm just wondering about pathways into the cyber workforce. Is there a pathway from school where you've got sort of bright kids and you think, right, okay, they'll be good in the cyber protection space?
I think I will go back to the earlier comment that John made, that cybersecurity, we need a diverse range of people, also from a diverse range of backgrounds. It's definitely a very technical subject, and we need, particularly for critical infrastructures, engineering-based students as well. But there is also, all sorts of issues around kind of human factors and psychology and how you design systems and so on. I think the challenge remains is that there isn't really a clear pathway as it stands from schools all the way into the profession. That pathway typically comes through, at the moment, largely through GCSE and A-levels in computing. However, there isn't really a very substantial focus on cybersecurity within the GCSE and A-levels computing. So a lot of this work is covered as an extra curricular activity where, for example, teachers may have the resources or the time to do this, or through programs which do incredibly well. Again, I would emphasize like Cyber First, which really have done made a lot of difference in terms of improving awareness. But unless we can fix that issue that from very early on in schools, young people see cybersecurity as something that is quite integral to society, we will not fix the pipeline. And already we see, certainly from my own experience, we see that already at GCSE levels, the numbers coming generally into computing decline compared to other STEM subjects, for example, and I can only speak with confidence about STEM subjects. So already we are seeing a much narrower pool coming in. Out of that, even a much, much narrower pool goes towards cybersecurity. So we are seeing absolutely diminishing numbers that come into the sector.
Why is that, do you think? Because there might be an appeal to like being in a hoodie and eating pizza at a computer. So why do you think there is that decline?
I think it is exactly because of this, trope is what I would say, that, cybersecurity people are people who sit in hoodies and eat pizza. I think it's this issue that you are just doing this because this is a kind of a geeky, nerdy thing to do. I mean, I'm self-classified nerd. I don't have any objection to that.
Yeah.
However,
this committee classifies
it. But
it's
the key issue is that we need to make sure that people understand where cybersecurity sits within the kind of our life every day. These are, particularly when we talk about critical infrastructure, these are not systems that are invisible. These are systems that bring water and power into our homes. And when we have had, for example, school children come into our lab, they are most surprised but also excited by the fact that we actually are working on systems, because we work on these systems, we are working on systems that they're familiar with, that bring services into their homes. And it is the first time they come across this, that this actually is something that drives the infrastructure every day in society. And I think we need to change that from very early on. If we change that, we will see more people engaging with it, because they will see, young people increasingly today, hopefully also always, have had a desire to make the world better, right? And if we start with that, rather than saying this is just about being in a hoodie, that's...
I think it's the fact that you're seen as being pizza and hoodie and having no interest in the wider world, whereas in reality, as we go through digital transformation, we connect everything, cybersecurity really is there about making the world a safer place. And it's just connecting with that we need to make people realise that, yes, you can wear a hoodie and eat pizza. I've been known to do both those things. But actually, you're doing that while trying to make the world a safer place, not sitting there behind your computer, never talking to anybody, or just trying to break the world, which is what comes with that image, that these people just want to break the world. Where actually, even
that's
if
where
you're
the ethical hacking comes in.
but even ethical hacking, if you're breaking it, you're helping to find the vulnerabilities that you then report to the manufacturer so they can fix it.
Yeah. Okay, that's really fascinating, actually. Yeah, thank you. So it's about a bit like politics, really, making sure that everyone knows that it's injected into everything that you do. Brilliant. All right, thank you very much.
Thank you both. And finally, I'm afraid, briefly,